Bruchim aboim b'shem Hashem. What a great simcha it is that throughout the entire world we are all united in the study of Torah. Torah Anytime is an unbelievable organization. What they have done to spread Torah throughout the entire world is something that in the recent weeks especially, we've been able to see the miracles. The site crashed so many times because of the subscribers throughout the entire world that are thirsty for the shiurim, that are thirsty for the drashos. What an unreal thing it is that the Torah Kedosha can dispel the darkness, can dispel the sadness, can bring simcha to each and everyone's life. I would like to ask that the great people behind Torah Anytime, Shimon Kol Yaakov, Reuben Kol Yaakov, Rabbi Yosef, they should have hatzlacha and bracha in everything they do, beruchnius ubegashmius, and continue to take Torah Anytime, mechayel el chayil. I would also like to thank that organization that is very close to my heart, Chazaq. What Chazaq has done to bring people closer to Hashem, to reach out to those that may not necessarily be noticed, to worry about the children in public schools, to bring them to yeshivas, to bring the girls to Beis Yaakov, what they have done to educate the communities, to raise the level of Torah and mitzvahs, is something that is berumo shel olam. It stands at the height of the world. And I want to thank Rev Yaniv Merav, because he himself does not stop night and day. He constantly worries about spreading Torah in this world. And also to our dear friend, Rabbi Abaf, what he wouldn't do to help Torah, to help mitzvahs, what he wouldn't do out of all of the things in his life, he puts this first, always, the idea of Chazaq in bringing others close to Hashem. May they have hatzlacha and bracha, mechayel el chayil, in all that they do. Our shir today is going to be centered around the very first Mishnah in the second parak of Pirkei Avos. Hevi zohir b'mitzvah kala ki b'chamura. Be careful. In a mitzvah kala, those little minor mitzvahs, those little mitzvahs that sometimes, it's not as important as fasting on Yom Kippur. It's not as important as eating only matzah on Pesach, not eating anything that is chametz. Kilba chamura. They're as important, those little ones, as the major ones, as the ones that we shake in front of, as the ones that we are afraid not to fulfill in the correct way. We do not know the reward for a mitzvah. A person could think, I'm doing a major mitzvah right now, and the reward is so huge. However, there's a little minor mitzvah, and for that little minor mitzvah, I don't know, maybe it's expendable, maybe I don't have to worry about it. I do a lot of big mitzvahs, so that little mitzvah I don't have to worry about. No, even that little mitzvah, it is huge. A person never knows when it's going to come in life, and that little mitzvah will protect a person forever. The Chofetz Chaim said, Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba, that it is an Eitz Chaim, a tree of life, to those that grab onto it, v'samchel meushar, and those that support it, those that give, meushar, they're happy. They go around with joy in life. Says the Chofetz Chaim something fantastic. Why does it say Eitz Chaim? It is a tree of life. And he says the following, that sometimes a person's in a boat, and they're going, maybe rafting, and all of a sudden they didn't realize it. There is a steep decline and it starts going down, and they realize that if they continue on the boat or the raft, that they're all going to get, unfortunately, killed in the water. So what does a person do? They see an overhanging branch. They reach up and they grab it. Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba, says the Chofetz Chaim. They didn't take the whole Torah. They didn't take 613 mitzvahs. What did they take? One branch. One mitzvah that was major, or one mitzvah that was minor. And because of that, an individual can save their lives. Chofetz Chaim said, in your life, be careful about a mitzvah. in your life, take one mitzvah and make it your own. Own it. Worry about it. Be mekayim it in the best way. There were people that did this in life. It comes to mind the great Rebbetzin Lubling, Zichronim Levracha, how much that she cared about every single person in this world. The Bikor Cholim, the fact that she constantly went to the hospitals day and night. Her phone was always on. You could never not reach Rebbetzin Lubling. How she brought doctors to people that were ill. How she was able to do the matches and get everybody where they needed to be. That Rebbetzin dedicated herself to the mitzvah. Is it chamura, is it kala? Judge for yourself. But she made it her own. I was told by a wonderful man, Douglas Jablon, that one time she needed a doctor. And the doctor was at the airport, so she ran to the airport. What did she care? And then they said that the doctor's on the plane. Only Rebbetzin Lubling could pass all the security with clearance, get up on the plane, and pull the doctor off of the plane. That's the mitzvah that she was dedicated to. Or the great Rav Rosenberger, Rabbi Yosef Rosenberger, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, came to this land and worried about a mitzvah that was neglected, all but forgotten. The mitzvah of shatnez, lo silbash, that a person cannot wear, wool and linen. And what did he do? He went and he saw that people, they were buying suits, they were buying outfits, and they were full of shatnez. Because in Europe, a person would go to their tailor. In Europe, the tailor would know, this you can use, this you can't use. They were Yiddish tailors. But here in America, people didn't realize that clothing has to be checked for shatnez. So he walked up and down the streets and he begged people, please check, please come to me and I'll be able to help you with it. People started to look at him. Shigana, oh, crazy, check your clothes. You have to look inside your clothes. What could be wrong with clothes? We never checked our clothes back in Europe. There was no such a thing. And he started to go to the schools. And he went from school to school begging the young boys and the young girls, the mitzvah of shatnez. It's like the mitzvah of basar v'chalav. Who would think about eating some meat and taking a glass of milk? Nobody. The same isser. Who would think about wearing wool and linen together? Well, he continued. And after a while, they stopped calling him Mishugana. And he established the Shatnez Laboratory. He dedicated himself to that mitzvah. He established the Shatnez Laboratory in Williamsburg. I had a chance to see his work, and from that, centers all over the world, Australia and South Africa and London, and you can't imagine a place that does not have a Shatnez check or a Shatnez Laboratory. It was Bein Hazmanim, and I went down to the Shatnez Laboratory because Rav Rosenberger, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, had asked me if I would like to learn about shatnez, Mirz Lang Yoren. So I went. Every day of Bein Hazmanim in between the yeshiva when we were out for break, I went there and I sat by him and I learned the mitzvah of shatnez. I learned how to check. If I tell you the mesiras nefesh that man had for that one mitzvah, I learned an unbelievable amount about shatnez. But you know what I learned a lot more about? I learned chavivas ha-mitzvahs. I learned endearment for a mitzvah. I learned mesiras nefesh, self-sacrifice for one mitzvah, a mitzvah that was neglected. And then he wrote in his will, his last will and testament is tzavah. Because he was oisek, because he was involved in the mitzvah of shatnez his whole life, he asks anybody on his yard site if they could learn a Mishnah, if they could learn a little bit of Torah, because he's afraid. Maybe he didn't learn enough. Maybe he didn't do enough in his life. Rabbi Rosenberger that didn't stop for one moment doing mitzvahs, fulfilling the will of Hashem. And he's worried. I think he had nothing to worry about. May his neshama continue to go higher and higher in Gan Eden. So that's what it means. A person should know, grab on to one mitzvah in particular, you can save yourself, you can save your life. The Heilige Chofetz Chaim was very strong about the mitzvah of Shmiras HaLashon. Shmiras HaLashon is something that we can all do. We can all be quiet. we can all be careful. We cannot harm another individual. Try to say something bad. If you don't have something good to say, I'll tell you what my mama, Zichron Livracha, would always say, don't say it. You're not getting a mitzvah, so why are you saying it? I got to listen. We all have to listen to that. Not only in saying, but also in writing something not nice about another person. Oinoas Tavarim is a diaraisa. We got to be careful. All of us got to be careful. Do you know what the great tzaddik of Meilit said? If another Yid would never ever raise a hand, raise a pen, raise a voice against another Jew, no one from the Amim, no one from the nations would be able to hurt us. The Melitzer said it, that no one could hurt us if we didn't hurt each other, if we didn't stand in judgment of the next person, if we didn't feel the need to besmirch somebody, if we didn't feel the need to speak negatively about the next individual. And so, the great Belzer Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, once said that there was a Yid in the town, a Yid that was very careful, mitzvah kala, mitzvah of netilas yadayim, mitzvah of washing before bread, mitzvah netilas yadayim. What happened was, his whole life, he just did that mitzvah. Never did any other mitzvah. They never saw him in shul. They never saw him buy kosher meat. They never saw him put on tefillin. They never saw him in any public reading of the Megillah. What happened with him? Came to be that he had a sandwich. He was starving. He was in between towns. He said to himself, I got to eat. The only place to wash, there was a well. But standing around the well were unsavory characters, rotzchim, cutthroats, thieves, people that he would endanger his life. He said, you know what? It's dangerous. I'm not going to do it. So one time I won't wash. He picked up the bread. He was ready to eat the sandwich. And all of a sudden he said, impossible. I do one mitzvah. My whole relationship with Hashem, with the one upstairs, is based on that one mitzvah. Now I'm not going to do it. He went over, and as he began to wash, they robbed him and unfortunately killed him. When he was prepared and they sent him for his levaya, the Chevra Kadisha was astounded. The Belzer Rebbe himself came to the levaya. The Belzer Rebbe, to come to a levaya at that time, he was elderly, wasn't feeling well, to go to a Yid, didn't do anything, no mitzvahs, no nothing, and all of a sudden he's coming, he's malave, he's going straight to the Beis HaChaim, to the cemetery. They came over and they asked the Belzer Rebbe, what is it? They asked him after the levaya. And he says, I'm going to tell you the truth. He was so strong on that one mitzvah that he held on to, even with Mesiras Nefesh, with self-sacrifice. When he was nifter, he went straight to Gan Eden. Eitz Chaim hi l'machazikim ba. Even that one branch is enough to hold a person to Torah and to mitzvos. Interesting, the Medrash Tanchuma says, we have Ramach Evarim. Everybody knows we have 248 limbs, and that is keneged, the 248 positive mitzvos that we all have. We know that every aver cries out, each one of our limbs cry out, do a mitzvah, do the mitzvah of tefillin, do the mitzvah of shmiras hapeh, shmiras einayim, shmiras haloshen, do the mitzvahs, all of them, our feet. Somachti ba'omrim li beis Hashem neilech. How I rejoiced. Ba'omrim li beis Hashem neilech. Go to the shul, go to the Beis Medrash, go to the yeshiva, go to the Beis Yaakov. All the parts of the body have various mitzvahs associated with them. Do the mitzvah, says the Medrash Tanchuma, and you'll live long. There are also 365 mitzvahs lo yisaseh, 365 mitzvahs that are negative precepts. Every day, from sunrise until sunset, there is a cry, because there are 365 days in the year. Every day says, I am geyser on you. I decree on you that you don't do an avera. Don't bring me in the whole world l'kav choiva. Don't obligate me. Don't chas v'shalom make me responsible for any decrees. And therefore every day cries out to a person, try to be good. Try to avoid all bad. Try to go only to the right places. Try to go and do the things that Hashem wants you to. The Rambam classifies Simchas HaChag as a mitzvah kala, as an easy mitzvah, as a light mitzvah. Interesting, and a mitzvah chamura, the mitzvah of bris milah. And I never knew that the mitzvah bris milah was a mitzvah chamura until it happened to be that somebody called me from Eastern Europe. And they told me they have a very big nisayon. The nisayon is they didn't have a bris milah. And they do all the mitzvahs. Nobody knows. But it's difficult. Even the thought about it is difficult. And what could they do? And I started to talk to the individual. I had once met them when I was in Poland. And we talked back and forth. Finally, after a number of conversations, deep conversations, the person said, I am willing to do it. Would you be on the telephone with me until they actually will me in? I said, it would be my greatest schus. Oh, I saw how the Rambam classifies mitzvah chamura is the mitzvah of milah. Reb Chatzkel Levenstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, points out, what is the mitzvah? Mitzvah kala. You remember the Bnei Korach? They certainly didn't come from that great of a father. They all stood up out of kavod, respect for Moshe Rabbeinu. They all stood up out of respect. How unbelievable it is. What happened from that little standing up out of respect? Sometimes we measure the person came in. Oh, do I have to stand up for him? I may be as great as him. Maybe I know how to learn better than they do. They stood up. That's the halacha. Malei kumasa, not just straightening out your back, but standing up so that a person sees that you have reverence for a parent, reverence for a rebbe, reverence for a rav, reverence for a eishes chaver, for a rebbitzin. And because of that, what happened because they stood up? Mizmarei Tehillim. Lamnatseach livnei koirach. You can say droshas. You can expound every word of those Tehillim. Who came out from them? Shmuel. Shmuel was shokol, was equal to Moshe and Aaron. How unbelievable it is. What happened in later generations? Great people came out from them. Why? The reason is because they had done a mitzvah. From the smallest mitzvah, a person never knows what is going to happen. Fascinating that we find the Alter of Novardok. The great Alter of Novardok said that if a person says, I will only do the chamuros, I'm only going to do the major mitzvahs, I'm only going to do the major mitzvahs in life, and those averis that are just like small averis, I won't worry about. So what happens from that individual? Eventually, they will not even worry about the mitzvahs chamuros, averos chamuros, the major sins, the major mitzvahs. They won't worry about it. When we start picking and choosing what is good and what we feel is important and what we feel is not so important. And this is something that I want to underscore for all of us throughout the entire world, all people who are right now involved in our shir. Be very careful. The smallest little mitzvah, we don't know what it's going to do. I had the occasion at one time, I was walking down, I used to live on East 9th Street. I was walking down East 9th Street and I saw a person that I know, an individual. This individual is a person that helps to collect, the little children collect a little money, give out little prizes for tzedakah. His head was down, and I thought that he was deep in thought. And when I passed him, I said to him, how are you? He looked up at me, and he didn't give me any kind of expression. I said, how's your avodas hakodesh? How's your holy work? He looked at me in a funny way. He went like that and continued. I felt so bad. Do you ever know if you said the right thing or you didn't? We're in charge of the things that come out of our mouth. Maybe I made him feel bad. Maybe I didn't say the right thing. Maybe I started his day off in the wrong way. Maybe I shouldn't have been so friendly. Later that evening, I came back to my house. And when I came in, family told me there's someone on the telephone. They told me his last name. I said, oh no, I can't believe it. He's calling me to tell me what I did wrong earlier that morning. I hesitated, picked up the telephone, and he said, Rav, I want to tell you, you know today, when you ask me how my Avodas HaKodesh is going, do you know that I was on my way to hand in my resignation because this year I haven't been able to raise the money, even to cover a portion of my salary. I just felt like a failure. I felt I couldn't do it anymore to them, and I went in. But when you said, how's your Avodas HaKodesh? I couldn't believe that you know what I do. I couldn't believe that you're machshav what I do for the children and collect the little tzedakahs. I mean, what is it? But you said it in such a way that I got a renewed vigor. I walked in that day, and in one day, I was able to raise money that not only could cover the salary for this month, but it was more than I had raised the entire year. I want to thank you. Mishnah tells us, Hevi makdim shalom l'chol adam. You should say hello to everybody. Mitzvah kala, mitzvah chamura. Is it minor or major? You choose. Which one? How you could be mechazek somebody. Instead of telling a person a complaint, if you go and you find something nice to say about them. How it's mechazek them. If the child came home and they didn't do so good that day, and you say, I know you're going to do better. You didn't do so good today, but believe me, you're going to do so great. When I have a shayla in the future, I'm going to ask you. And the little girl, maybe you got into a little trouble in school. Maybe you weren't looking in exactly like you should have. And maybe the teacher said something, but I want to tell you, when you grow up, you're going to be a great Rebbitzin. You're going to give a lot of people inspiration. I'm just waiting to see it. If you do that, or an adult, everybody needs chizuk. And you're mechazik a person, ad ein l'shayr. Your schar is huge. It is great. When a person will go to Olam Haba, when they'll go to the next world after 120 years, they're going to say, thank you. Thank you for saving that man's life. Thank you for saving that woman's life. The person will say, I wasn't on Hatzalah. I wasn't on the Misaskim. I didn't work for Shoimrim or Chaverim. I didn't do any of that. None of those organizations. No. But you gave somebody a good word. And because you gave someone a good word, they cared about themselves. They made something out of themselves. And they didn't have negative feelings that could lead to, I don't want to say where. So that is the idea, that a person should be as careful in a mitzvah kala as a mitzvah chamura. Likutei Moharan says something interesting. What does it mean? Because each mitzvah is goyrem. It causes something specific up in Shamayim. The littlest mitzvah or the biggest mitzvah. You can never tell what it is. It could be that you do something so small, you don't know what it's going to have an effect in the upper worlds. You may not be aware of it. You could say, what'd I do? I just said hello to that person, or I just helped that individual out, or somebody insulted me and I didn't say anything back. I wasn't meshiv. I heard my chep and I didn't say a word. But what did I do? It's nothing. What do you mean nothing? It was something. All the people, what did I do? I said a little tillim. So what did I do? A kapitel tillim. I tried to help somebody by saying tillim for them. Well, do you think my tillim helps? Yes. A person can never tell whose tefillos are answered, whose prayers are answered. An individual can never tell what is the result of their efforts. What is the result of saying, Ein oid milvadoi? There is none other than Hashem. Ein oid milvado. A person that says it with a clear heart, with a clear mind, and they know that Hashem rules over everything. As Reb Chaim Volozhiner says, that is a skula nifla. It is an unbelievable charm for a person to be mevatel bad things and to have good things happen. Can we imagine it? Chickens for Shabbos. Chickens for Shabbos. What do? Chickens for Shabbos, they give food. They give clothing. They give the basic staples in life that people need. So an individual says, okay, nice tzedakah. But who do they give it to? Grushos, agunos, amonos. Those that may be missed in life. Those that we just don't see all the time. Those that just fade into the woodwork. Those that might be embarrassed. Those that may not be in the public eye. But do they suffer? Chas v'shalom? I don't even want to say it. Being missed out in life, in the kleine children, the little kinderlach, that they should have what they need. And no, just because there's not a father in the home right now, I am equal. I am as good as all the other boys in class and girls in class. I have the same food. I have nice clothing. I have somebody that cares about me and brings a package. That they should have that self-esteem. Can you imagine? Is it a mitzvah kala or a mitzvah chamura? The Rebbe that struggles, that works long hours, that cares about the Talmidim, the Mora, that cares about the Talmidas and calls them at night and worries about them, worries about how they're doing at home, just not in school, whether they're doing the classwork and the curriculum, I don't know what, but worried about them as a child, as a neshama. And how about their little children? When they have the salary that they do, and sometimes, let's face it, it's not the highest bracket in the world. What should their children feel like? But chickens for Shabbos, they make sure that they all have things b'derech kavod, in an honorable and respectable way. I ask you, mitzvah kala or mitzvah chamura? All of these things that we learn, we don't know the scale of merit of the smallest little mitzvah that we do. I would just like to end, to be Messiah b'dover tov. And that is that every year I try before Yom Tov to gather together whatever I possibly can. A little bit of money so that the people can make Yom Tov and that the people have a joyous Yom Tov and the joyous Chol Hamoed. And so somebody called me up. There's a woman, and the woman is actually together with a young daughter. I don't know how this ever happened, but she's living in a shelter. Suffice it to say, I once went to a shelter together with a very big Asken, Reb Chesky. I went to a shelter to view whether there were people there that possibly we could bring out in Manhattan. Needless to say, the conditions of the shelter, don't even want to talk about. A woman and a daughter in the shelter, I couldn't put it together. I told the Asken, please, I'll be happy to give them whatever I possibly can. And I went out that day to put together some assistance for them. And I had it in the envelope. And then, at about 4:30, I get a knock on the door, right here in this room where we're at now. A mother, together with her daughter, young little daughter, comes in. The most humble people that I've ever met. They both came in, smiles, but not looking straight ahead, more looking down. And they came over, and I gave to them immediately what I had gathered together for them. And I tried to give them words of chizuk. The daughter begins to ask the mommy, Mommy, can I show him now? And the mommy keeps going like this, no, but the daughter was so excited about something. And she says, Could I please show him? I want to show the Rebbe. I want to show the Rebbe. The mother felt so bad. The daughter began to take out from a paper bag something that she wanted to show me. It was drawings. It was pictures that she had made on white paper. Beautiful drawings of the Haggadah with the words written in underneath that are found on that page in the Haggadah. The woman explained that this little girl had gone together with her during the day, one day, to a Judaica store. And there were on the shelf beautiful Haggadahs, the Pesach Haggadah, written for children. Beautiful pictures. She was fascinated. She looked at those pictures and concentrated. When she went home, she realized there was no way on earth that she would ever be the proud owner of that Haggadah. It just wasn't going to happen. So what did she do? She was creative. She is a little bit artistic. She took out white paper and she began to draw the picture that she had seen earlier. A few days later, they went back to the store only to look, only to window shop. She took a look again in the Haggadah. She studied a picture. And when she came home, she did the same. This repeated itself. And she wanted to show me the Haggadah that she had made herself, that she would use on the night of Pesach. How proud she was, even though she knew that her mother could not afford even the simplest of Haggadahs for her to use. I saw the pain in her mother's eyes as she explained it over to me. And I told the mama, Ashrecha, how happy you are. How happy you are to have such a child that dreams of Yetzias Mitzrayim, that dreams of Torah, that dreams of the Haggadah, dreams of Pesach, and that is her desire. And how beautiful she wrote the pictures, how beautiful she wrote the psukim. This is unbelievable. She's going to grow up to be great in Klal Yisrael. Be happy and be besimcha rabbah, because it is the greatest happiness that any parent could ever have. May we all experience tremendous nachas. May we all have a life full of simchas. Simcha shel mitzvah.